Today we're making a no-bake pumpkin pie. That's right, no-bake pumpkin pie. Welcome back to Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming. This is Sandy, and we are starting out with one package of graham crackers. And I'm just using a food processor to just chop them up, and this is what we're going to use for our crust. And you could use a blender, anything that will chop them up finely. So I moved them to a bowl, and to that I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar. And I'm going to take my fork and I'm going to incorporate that. I like to do that before I add the butter, just because you're always finding little pieces that didn't get chopped up fine enough. And you can use your fingers or you can use your fork and just break those up. Then I'm slowly going to add my 5 tablespoons of melted butter. It makes a great crust, and Karen over at In the Kitchen with Karen suggested why not using ginger snaps, so you might think about that too. Give it a little bit different flavor for your crust. And then I'm going to press it in to my pie pan. Now, you can bake this at this point when you get it all pressed in there. I don't bake my graham cracker crust. That's just a personal preference, but I'm just going to press them on the walls of the pie pan, and I'm going to go all the way up to that rim, so you're not really going to see any of that pie pan anymore. Now I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of orange juice or 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and you're going to mix that up. And then we need 2 teaspoons of gelatin. Now I'm using Knox gelatin. You get it in the baking aisle. I am not going to mix that. I'm just going to sprinkle it up on top. And it's basically 2 teaspoons is the entire envelope. But I'm just going to sprinkle that all on there. And then you want it to rest for at least 5 minutes. Now it can rest longer, but it has to do at least 5 minutes. Now this is what it looks like after 5 minutes. It started to absorb into it. On my stove, I'm going to add 1/2 cup of heavy cream. And the heavy cream wants to stick to your measuring cup, so use a spatula to get it all out. 2/3 cup of sugar, and I'm just going to mix that in. Now my stove is set at a medium low, and this is real important. You don't want it to heat it too fast. To that mixture, I'm going to add 3/4 teaspoon of table salt, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of ginger, and 1/8 teaspoon of both nutmeg and cloves. Now my burner is on, so it's starting to warm up, and I'm going to really stir this all the time. I'm going to keep a close eye on it. And you can use a spatula, you could use a whisk, just something that you can stir it over so that when it heats up, it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. Now I need 2 to 3 egg yolks. If you're using extra large eggs, you'll only use 2 egg yolks and 1/3 cup sugar. And I'm going to mix that up. Now on my stove, it has gotten so that there's bubbles all the way around, and I know that it's warm enough then. So I'm going to take that mixture with all those spices and pour it into the egg mixture. And I'm going to stir it, and then I'm going to pour it back into the pan, because we have to heat it up even to a higher temperature. I put my thermometer in, and I need it to be 175 to 180 degrees. And at this, you have to stir all the time. You can't burn it. When it gets to the 175 degrees, we're going to add that gelatin mixture. I'm just going to plop that in there, and then I'm going to mix it up, and it only takes just seconds really, so that it's all incorporated in there. Now we're going to go back over to the food processor, and we have 15 ounces of pumpkin, which is about 1 3/4 cup of pumpkins. And we're going to add 1/2 cup of heavy cream. We're going to turn the food processor on so that it mixes it all up. And as soon as it's incorporated, we're going to take our mixture from our stove And we are going to pour that on there. And right now it's consistency, it kind of looks like caramel, but it's really just all those spices. And when I get that all out of the pan, I'm going to turn my food processor on for about 15 to 18 seconds is all it's going to take. And as you can see, it's already getting really thick. And I'm going to pour that into my graham cracker crust. I'm going to put this in the refrigerator for 3 hours uncovered. Now after the 3 hours, I can cover it up and you let it sit overnight before you serve it. But just make sure that first 3 hours it doesn't have anything on it because you want it to keep its shape. And it makes a beautiful no-bake pumpkin pie. And when you slice it the next day, it stays in its shape. And in fact, I'm eating a piece while I'm doing this video. I'll see you next time.